Ashina, also spelled Asen, Asena, or Asena, was a tribe and the ruling dynasty of the ancient Turkic peoples who rose to prominence in the mid-6th century when the leader, Bumin Khan, revolted against the Rouran. The two main branches of the family, one descended from Bumin and the other from his brother Istemi, ruled over the eastern and western parts of the Göktürk Empire, respectively. Origin. Some researchers, such as H.W. Hausig, S.G. Kulgyashtorny, A.N. Bernstam, C.V. Findley, B. A. Moradov, R. Suyunov, D.G. Savanov, S.P. Garshin, Rouran.The, R.N. Fry, and others who point out the origin of the Ashina from Sakawusun, put forward in favor of this version of the following arguments. Name the recent rereading of the Bugat inscription, the oldest inscription of the Ashina dynasty, written in Sogdian, by a Japanese team of philologists has suggested that the name, known only in the Chinese transcription of Ashina, was in fact Ashina's. It is in fact known in later Arabic sources under this form. Genetics in 2015-2016 YY, in Fudan University, headed by ethnogenomist Xiao Qingwen in China, were tested to determine the Y DNA haplogroup. The representatives from aristocratic Turkic clan Ashina and Ashide, subclade of clan Ashina, R1 are Z93, Z94 plus, Z2123, Y2632. In this research, 6 are Z94 applicants, who identifies themselves as descendants of Ashina clan and whose ancestors are known to be originated from Gaochang, are listed as the descendants of Ashina clan, with 4 of them from China having a surname Shi and 2 of them from Afghanistan, Pashtun and Bulgaria. Etymology. Findley assumes that the name Ashina probably comes from one of the Saka languages of Central Asia and means blue, Gök in Turkic, the color identified with the east, so that Göktürk, another name for the Turk Empire, meant the Turks of the East. This is seconded by the Hungarian researcher Andris Rouran.The, who finds it plausible that we are dealing with a royal family and clan of Saka origin. Ashina means either noble wolf in Turkic languages, wolf being Burakaskir. In Mongolian languages wolf is chono or chono. The prefix of respect in Chinese. Other opinions, or roots of the ethnonym Ashina, are to be found in Sakawusun tribal anthroponyms. H.W. Hausig and S.G. Kulgyashtorny suggest an association between the name and the compound kindred of Asen, Asena, Old Persian, which can get quite satisfactory etymological development. This is so even in East Turkestan. Then the desired form would be in the Sogdian XSYNK, blue, dark, Khotan Saka Asena, blue, where a long A emerged as development Rs and GT, as, in Tocharian Aasna, blue, dark. The Saka etymology Ashina with the value blue is phonetically and semantically flawless. There is a textual support for this version in the ancient runic inscriptions of the Turks. In the large or corn inscriptions, in the story of the first Kagan, people living in the newly created empire, are named Göktürk, translated as Celestial Turks. Without touching the numerous interpretations Kok may have in this combination, we note its perfect semantic match with the reconstructed value of the name Ashina. An explicit semantic calque suggests knowledge of its original meaning and foreign origin, which is compatible with the multi-ethnic, multicultural nature of the first Turkic Khanate, which entailed the loss, however, of the popularity of national character. In the words of L. Basin, as was the political and cultural environment of the Ottoman regime of the era of Bilge Kagan. The name Ashina was recorded in ancient Arab chronicles in the form Sha'ni. Ashina writing system was taken from Sogdian language. The letters used in the construction of the memorial stele describing the heroic exploits of the members of the ruling Kagan kind were Sogdian. Thus the main inscription on the stele by Göktürk, set up in honor of one of the rulers of the first Turkic Khanate, is written Sogdian letter. A Sogdian inscription is found on the broadsword discovered in the burial of the ancient Turkic warrior at the monument at Jolene in the Altai Mountains. During the period of the Second Eastern Turk, ancient Turkic runic writing spread, which was also influenced by Sogdian letters. Runes are widespread among the nomadic Turkic peoples in the early Middle Ages. Funeral rite Tansu describes the funeral rites Ashina as follows. The body of the deceased be left in a tent. Sons, her children and relatives of both sexes slaughter horses and sheep, and as they spread around in front of the tent, sacrifice, they ride on horseback 7 times around the tent, and then, at the entrance to the tent, slit their own faces with a knife, weeping, and spill the blood forward, pouring blood and tears collectively. They do so 7 times and it is over. Later in the chosen day they take the horse on which the deceased used to ride, and the things that he used, and burn them along with the corpse. The ashes are then collected and buried in a certain season into the grave. Those who died in the spring and summer are buried when the leaves on the trees and plants begin to turn yellow and fall. Those who died in the fall or winter are buried when the flowers begin to unfold. On the day of the funeral, as well as on the day of his death, the family offers a sacrifice, rides horses and slit the face. The building, which was built on the grave, is decorated with the portrait of the face of the dead man and with the description of battles in which he was, as in the continuation of life. Usually they put 1 stone for every man he killed. They may have a different number of such stones, up to 100 or even 1,000. When bringing sheep and horses as a sacrifice to a single, they hang the heads on the milestones. According to D.G. Savinoff, no archaeological monument is fully consistent with the description given by I. Bisharan. Neither South Siberia nor Central Asia is known yet, although many of its elements are found already in the early Turkic time. According to D.G. Savinoff, this may be for several reasons. Turkic burial sites in Central Asia and Southern Siberia are not yet open. The source is a compilation in character, and burial rituals and funeral cycle from various sources are listed in a unified description. Turkic funeral rites in the form in which it is recorded in written sources, developed later on the basis of the various components present in some of the archaeological sites of southern Siberia of early Turkic time. It is certain that the rite of cremation was adopted among Turkic Hagan and a very narrow ruling stratum of Khaganates, i.e. it was inherent in it as the prince of the tribe. Asen, who had as possible will consider Indo-European origin. Rite of cremation obviously did not spread among the common people of Turkic i.e. did not have a mass character. This may well be at the origin of the other ethnic groups of the ruling family. As a result of the use of the rite described Tansu, of a very narrow class of people, Savinova's assumption most likely is true, on the grounds that the Turkic burial sites in Central Asia and southern Siberia are not yet open. The most curious thing is that almost all of the elements of the funeral rite Ashina have analogues in the Indo-European rites, in particular the Slavic rites. About individual incision Al-Bakr can be quoted. Wives of the same dead cut the hands and faces with knives. Chinese source said that on the day of the funeral, as well as in the day of his death, family used to ride horses. There is likely to have in mind something like Slavic funeral feast. The building was built on the grave as an analogue of the Slavic domowina, burial of the ashes of the deceased in the vessel, as is recorded by the Slavs' tale of bygone years, for example, where it says, "burned, and after collecting the bones, put them in a small container." Analysis of written sources. Traditions. S.G. Kuljiashtorny studied the legends of the clan Ashina in comparison with historical evidence. The dynastic chronicle Suishu carries information that is realistic at its basis, the historiographical value of which now seems undeniable, and offered to share the early history of the tribe's tick of 2 consecutive periods. Gansu Gaukan, when the ancestors of the Turks Ashina formed from post-Hun and local Iranian tribes on the territory of eastern Turkestan, and the Altai, when the established Turkic ethnic group moved into the territory of the Mongolian Altai. Another Orientalist, U.A. Zuev, also points out the origin of the Sakawusun Ashina. In particular, he drew attention to the similarity of the legends about the origin of the Sakawusun and Ashina. So in particular U.A. Zuev notes that the Wusun had a family relationship with the ruling clan Ashina in the First Turkic Empire. Also Orientalists A.N. Bernstam, D.G. Savinov and others argue about the Sakawusun origin of the Ashina clan. They point out that according to the Suishu, the Ashina ancestors were some mixed ethnos. A.N. Bernstam, in the preface to a collection of information by N. Bisher in 1950, noted that the Chinese term Hu, barbarians, i.e., not Chinese, had been identified with the name of the Turks. However, according to Bernstam, in Chinese, especially in areas of East Turkestan and Central Asia as a rule, this term is understood as not just the Turkic tribes but also the settled, mainly Sogdian population. Sogdians played a huge role in the political, cultural, economic and trade activities of the Turkish Empire. They have, for example, performed important diplomatic missions with rulers, led embassies to the court of Iranian shahs, controlled trade silk. Sogdian preachers engaged in spreading Manichaeism, Christianity, and Buddhism among the nomads. These circumstances lead to the conclusion that the tribe Ashina formed in Hexipinliana's delivery of various Indo-European. In this area, during the formation of the tribe, the Indo-European population was predominant and, consequently, the Iranian and Tocharian languages. In ethnogenesis of Ashina, that which also follows from the testimony of the Chinese sources, also participated the element of Hunnish childbirth. After the defeat of the state Tsyuy Suyevin Hexi, Ashina fled to Gaochang, where after 460 AD they fell under the rule of Wan and were relocated to the southern spurs of the Altai. Ashina were artisans. They are mainly engaged in metallurgy, as suggested D.G. Savinov in the new places of settlement, including the territory of the newly created possessions. Ashina were faced with the local tribes, the native proto-cultural substrate. Apparently, this time may include the first acculturation processes, initiating the formation of the ancient Turkic historical and cultural complex. Since the beginning of the active military and political activities, Ashina was joined by a variety of Turkic peoples. The name of the new state was made Tik, and respectively, the population of the state has adopted the name of the Turks. The word became the name of the Ashina ruling dynasty. A detailed study of the origin of Ashina is conducted by sinologist S. P. Gashin. He notes that from the legend of the origin of Ashina, we know that Tukyu ancestors come from a reigning house, who lived to the north of the Huns. The title Saki tribes in Chinese sounds like Shohei, which coincides with the characters about the reigning house with. To check, you can refer to the Chinese dictionary, in which the dialectal reading of character Shohei is given in the form of Sak. Also, in Chinese phonetic basis, character equals sak, set in its old reading. Tamgarashina. Uazuev notes that the presence of crows as the ancient tribal totem of Wusun is doubtful. According to Wusun legend, the ancestors were a Wusun raven and the wolf. This fact is reflected in the Tamgar of Wusun, which depicts the raven. Tamgarashina also meant a raven. According to Zuev, the gold clan of Ashina tribe was called Sharduli, golden, red raven, golden bird Duli. Origins and legends. According to the New Book of Tang, the Ashina were related to the northern tribes of the Xiongnu. In particular, they were of TL tribe by ancestral lineage. As early as the 7th century, 4 theories about the mythical origins were recorded by the Book of Zhou, Book of Sua and Yuyang Zazu. Ashina was one of 10 sons born to a grey she-wolf in the north of Gaochang. The ancestor of the Ashina was a man from the Suo nation whose mother was a wolf and a seasoned goddess. The Ashina were mixture stocks from the Pingliam commander of eastern Gansu. The Ashina descended from a skilled archer named Chemo, who had once fallen in love with a sea goddess west of Ashide Cave. These stories were sometimes pieced together to form a chronologically coherent narrative of early Ashina history. However, as the Book of Zhou, the Book of Sui, and the Yuyang Zazu were all written around the same time, during early Tang dynasty, whether they could truly be considered chronological or rather should be considered competing versions of the Ashina's origin is debatable. These stories also have parallels in folktales and legends of other Turkic peoples, for instance, the Uyghurs and the Wusun. The record of Turks in Zushu describes the usage of gold in Turks around the mid-5th century. Inlaid gold sculpture of wolf head on the flag. The military men were called fuli, that is, wolf in Chinese. It is because they are descendant of the wolf, and naming so is for not forgetting their ancestors. History. The name Ashina first appeared in the Chinese records of the 6th century, and prior to that no other sources had related the history at all. The Great Soviet Encyclopedia infers that between the years 265 and 460 the Ashina had been part of various late Xiongnu confederations. About 460 they were subjugated by the Rouran, who ousted them from Xinjiang into the Altai Mountains, where the Ashina gradually emerged as the leaders of the early Turkic confederation, known as the Göktürks. By the 550s, Bumin Khan felt strong enough to throw off the yoke of the Rouran domination and established the Göktürk Empire, which flourished until the 630s and from 680s until 740s. The Okhorn Valley was the center of the Ashina power. Multiple members of the Ashina clan served as generals in the Tang dynasty military. The general Ashina Sheer led a Tang military Tang campaign against Kucha and against Karasar in 648. His brother, Ashina Zhong, was also a Tang general. Ashina mission Ashina Bushen joined Su Dingfang's military expedition against the Western Turkic Khaganate in 657. After the collapse of the Göktürk Empire under pressure from the resurgent Uyghurs, branches of the Ashina clan moved westward to Europe, where they became the Khagans of the Khazars and possibly other nomadic peoples with Turkic roots. According to Marquardt, the Ashina clan constituted noble caste throughout the steppes. Similarly, the Bashkir historian and Turkolog Zeki Validi Togan described them as a desert aristocracy that provided rulers for a number of Eurasian nomadic empires. Accounts of the Göktürk and Khazar Khaganate suggest that the Ashina clan was accorded sacred, perhaps quasi-divine status in the shamanic religion practiced by the steppe nomads of the first millennium CE. A relevant example of the special status of this wolf clan is demonstrated by Mongolian history. The Chonos, whose name translates as wolves, were held in such esteem by Mongolian warlords that when Jamukha in the late 12th century took prisoners of war from the wolf tribe, during the subsequent victory decapitation ritual he executed them by boiling to avoid the taboo of letting wolf blood mingle with the earth. By the way, according to Rashid ad-Din, the Chonos came to Mongolia from Ergenekon and were blacksmiths. Etymology. The Ashina probably comes from one of the Iranian languages of Central Asia and means blue cock in Turkic, the color identified with the East. So the Göktürk, another name for the Turk Empire, meant the Turks of the East. The term Bori, used to identify the ruler's retinue as wolves, probably also derived from one of the Iranian languages. Carter Voreen Findlay has observed. His opinion is seconded by the Hungarian researcher Andras Rouran-The, who finds it highly plausible that we are dealing with a royal family and clan of Iranian origin, almost certainly Saka. Former drive. Zhou Yuan derived the name from the related Manchu word Asen, and the early tribe was soon pronounced earlier in archaic Chinese. A group of people which he highly considered as a Tungusic people. Zhou asserted that the Zhormuz tribe Juk was evidently related to Juji, and that the Yuezhi was belonged to another Tungusic tribe named Woods, which could all ultimately traced back to the roots of Sushan. The question has recently been renewed by the new reading of the Bugat inscription by a Japanese team. On this Sogdian inscription, the oldest inscription of the First Turkic Empire, the name of the dynasty is clearly written Ashinas. It is not clear if the previous etymologies can be accepted as they did not took into account this final less